Holy. Oh my God.
You feel it?
Dude, it's popping a wheelie off of just kicking in the cadence sensor.
What's up, everybody? It is Matt from Electric All Wheel, and sadly, today it is raining and it's just not going to stop. It's going to keep going. It has done this for the past couple of days, and I'm itching to play around with the Predator and get through this. But I figured I would go ahead and record what I'm getting ready to do anyway, because I know a lot of you like to see it, and that is I'm going to open up the controller housing. Now, I did plan to check the voltage on the headlight, but I believe it's a 12-volt system, and regardless, I'll get it done when I get back with Brad, so that's why this is disconnected. And one last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys what I ended up doing with the front motor cable, because got a lot of grief for that thing when we unboxed it. Now, a lot of you spoke about it being messed up or the orientation not being correct, but the reality is I don't want my cable on the outer edge of the front fork at any time. I want it inside, so if the bike goes down, the cable is protected. That means that when I roll it around, I have to make sure that when I turn the handlebars, it's going to be good. The end result was something that I'm pretty pleased with, and it was actually fairly simple, and it will remain such so long as it is rigid enough to hold its position inside the frame. That being said, let me just get to this. It's raining right now, and I pulled out the tent, so I've got the umbrella cover up, and we're just gonna sit here in the rain, and I'm gonna pull this controller cap off. I'll pull the crank off too, so it's just not in the way at all, and you guys can watch. And let's do some rainy day activity with the wired Predator 8,000 watt peak. Oh my God. 300 bajillion Newton meters of torque, 72 volts, 35 amp hours, and I've seen 50 plus miles an hour, and I know that the settings aren't set up right yet, so I can only imagine. Helmet required, adult responsibilities, don't check for wobble, just take this thing out and enjoy it for what it is. Let's get to it. Okay, if you guys are wondering, I use an old Park Tool Professional dual bike stand with the heavy mounting plate, and then I always reinforce it with some pavers that I have, and this way I can remove the stand from my little makeshift, I guess what we'll call it, a studio. Go ahead and get my crank puller out. This thing on. There we go. That's pretty easy. So they feel pretty tensioned, but as I pulled this first screw out, I noticed that there was no thread locker. Oh, yeah, there is. Never mind. Looks like that one barely there, so it got scraped off. But you may want to reapply if you go about doing this, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Voila. Now it looks like I'm not even gonna need to pull on this thing and get these out of here. One thing that I wanted to see was what's going on with the current limits. So it looks like front motor is 45 plus or minus 1 amp. So you have a 45 plus or minus 1 amp current limit on your front 1500 watt Hintok motor. There it is. And then for the rear is a 65 plus or minus 1 amp current limit for this monstrous 2000 watt rear hub. And we see it's got that custom branding for Wired, as they have an exclusive deal with Hintok for that motor specifically. Ironically, I think if you go to Hintok's site, you can actually see a 2000 watt front hub, but you cannot get at the 2000 watt rear hub. Now it's XT90s, and then we're looking at 10 AWG wiring inside for this. And to be honest, there's a little bit of extra room with this. No, let's see. Is that gonna push up? Maybe, maybe not. No, they're running out the front face, so there's no marring on the cabling, so that will sit like so. That will need to run back up in there like so. It doesn't look like there's enough to get this cable up and over, and I don't really want to squeeze it. And these are actually screwed into the housing itself, so I do like that part. No rattling. These things aren't going to be bouncing around, so that is beneficial. Let me go ahead and pull out this balancer, see what's going on here. Ooh-wee. 10 to 100 volts max, 100 amps times 2. So you got 100 amps on either input, so your output is plus 100 total. So if you're pushing from both, you have a 110, 112 amp current that is running for both motors, and you know that that's going to be necessary. Now the trick here is that you can supply power because of this balancer to both motors via one battery. So you can use your frame battery, or you can use your rear battery, and it will still work. So that is an interesting aspect that I really like. Something to keep in mind. But this thing is moving on the size of some bike controllers. It's pretty fat. I do like it though. It's very nice. 10 AWG wiring coming off of that, XT90 connectors, and then you have dual motor, so dual input, dual output. And what you see here is that it looks like this thing may have been set up for triple, and they just use the housing for a dual output scenario. So there are some aspects to the controller that are worthwhile to know. You have to have some kind of communication line between the two controllers so that you can isolate your throttle, right? So what you see, especially with some of you that have actually seen the Citizen Cycle setup, is that to have a single throttle controlling both, then you have to have that control inside your connections between your two controllers, and one of them is slave. Also, what I noticed is that one thing that I would like above all is to be able to monitor both batteries as single units. That was an aspect that was available with e-cells that we did like, but there's trade-offs for this. One is charging the battery. It had a single port in-port with dual discharge for charging dual batteries off a single port, but it splits current, so it takes twice as long for those batteries. So I do like having the two chargers that just plug right in whenever you need them to, so that you can charge both your batteries, and their 5 amp current is a very, very quick charge, especially for these high capacity batteries. What I can show you here is that A and B, A on the outside is a battery, and then B on the outside is a battery, and then C is your front motor, and then out is your main, so that is your rear motor. I'm going to disconnect A and show you full function for both. So I have my switch is set at 2 and then not 3, so 2, and then we should see both wheels light up when I hit the throttle. And we do. So what we know is that that is rear battery only. And that is the benefit of a dual input, dual output balancer. It's still on because of the pattern in which I did that. And there you go. Both are running still. So beautiful. One of the things that I like especially about this display is that it tells you when both motors are activated. So 1 is actually your front motor, 2 is both, and then 3 is rear. So I can show you that powers that one. I'll flip this back to 1. Powers the front motor, and you can see that that rear is still disconnected. The alignment on this thing is really great, and the wiring setup is really good too. Some people have asked about the charging dual with 1. We do like that notion, but you get a lot faster charge when you use 2 chargers. Just everybody look at the size of this daggum wire. Oh my god, it's huge. Very massive for that rear motor. You guys may have wondered what I did with this, but in reality what actually happened is I ended up just pushing this cabling inside the housing more. And what that gave me is a nice run right down on the inside of the fork. So the cabling is not exposed to the outside of the front fork, and if the bike ever falls, it's not going to be an issue and it won't ruin the cabling. Now that was the bigger end of all of our thought process, and I don't think that that was explained well enough in the video because we got a lot of flack about this cabling scenario, but here we are. We're turned around all the way, full left turn. You can see it's looking all right. And then when I bring it back around, full right turn, my bumper's not working. Now this all changes when the fork is compressed right here. So keep that in mind. But what I found is that with that angle inside the frame right here, the rigidity of the cable is holding strong, and even with it compressing, it's running up inside the dual crown fork and then resets itself right here. So I don't have it exposed, which pleases me a lot. Make sure these are opposite when you do this. All right, Beach Life Bob, I showed you the front cabling. It is not screwed up. We're just moving towards perfection. We will see as we get through it and actually get into the review for the bike, but I have taken it out a couple times with the cabling like it is, and it is not exposed. So everything will hit the front fork before it hits the cabling, which is exactly what we want. It's a heck of a lot easier to change the front fork than it is to change all of the cabling, and it's a lot more expensive as well, so we don't want to go down that road. 112 amps. That means you got a BMS at 120 or more per battery. If the specs are matched for each one of these, both can handle the full current output or the full power of the motors at simultaneously. If the one single battery can do that, then you're looking at a BMS that needs to be able to handle that. So you're looking probably 125, 130 amp BMS, which is freaking awesome on these batteries. And it lets you know that there has been some forethought put into this. Really happy with the way that the controllers are mounted inside the controller compartment, and then that balancer is coming up to size for some of these smaller 48 volt bikes where you have like the controller is stuck into the mount of the battery itself. So that just blows my mind, but I'm really happy to see it. Dual input, dual output. You can actually tell that it was built for another purpose, probably triple input, single output, but they just flipped it around and then put enough MOSFETs in that thing. That's why that casing is so big to handle the job. XT90s with 10 AWG wiring, handling all of that current, making sure that it's not going to melt itself. And we are happy about that. And look at the size of this dadgum cable for the rear motor. That is insane. Display is good. Only thing I got to ask for really is the metering for dual battery, right? So one battery meter per battery, and then they should, if both are fully charged, simultaneously go down in percentage because of the way that the balancer works. It actually draws down the higher voltage first, and then once the two batteries match, it like simultaneously goes back and forth between them until they are reduced to the low voltage cutoff of the controller or the BMS of the batteries themselves. Sorry, it's not a ride video. I know a lot of you are going to have some comments about that. You know, go ahead and shoot me in the comments section. You guys leave a comment on what color you got, whether or not you like this green. I'm in between my indecision with Wicked Red, but I have the Warrior coming and was on the Wicked Red Scout. I love that thing, but I figured that this was the way to go when I first ordered, because it was just such a unique color when it came out on the Cruiser 60 volt. I really liked it. That's it. Listen, we're going to leave a link for this bike in the description below. Can't even remember what the pricing was. I know the shipping's been crazy, but Wired had nothing to do with that, and they are standing behind their word. This is not a scam. So you guys tell that other lady to kick rocks. She don't know what she's talking about. We appreciate you utilizing the affiliate links. It helps to keep this channel going. It also lets Steve know that this Wired bike is desired, especially by the electric all-wheel family. If you guys haven't already, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. It is our primary, and if you're in the area, check out E-Bikes of Tampa Bay, Florida. Get in that Facebook group, make an event, and go for a ride with your friends. We'll talk to you next time.
Although I do have it in 5 right now.